So after all these years, how do I know that I have found a home with Keystone Alliance Mortgage? Well, I'll start with Megan and Andre are ahead of their time. I've never been with such a diverse organization. We run the gamut. When they were recruiting me, I was fortunate enough to be at their retreat. And I noted to them that they were like the Justice League or the Avengers, because there are so many different types of people with so many different types of talent. But the other thing was they were very intentional about being different than every other lender. I did have the advantage or disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, of doing Lending Tree strictly for the first 18 months. I was in, and there's definitely a place for it and the Rockets of the world, but there was no way I was going to be able to compete with them marketing dollar wise. So I had to make a decision. How did I want to conduct business? And that was separating myself from the loan officer type, where you get a fee worksheet that just has rates and fees. There is nothing wrong with that. There are people in a much higher tax bracket than I am doing it that way. But I wanted to be multidimensional and give a little bit more. And I'm going to show you a real life example. And Keystone Alliance Mortgage allows me to do it the way I want to do it. And if I can just advise people all day, I'm in heaven. So I had a high net worth client. He's in like the 32% tax bracket, and he was trying to make a decision on whether to do a 1031 exchange, which gives you a tax break if you take the proceeds from an investment property and put it into another tax investment property. And it was like something like $14,000 that he would be able to save if he did this. But he was also thinking about doing a primary, doing it as a primary mortgage that he could live in. Couldn't live in the investment property, but he could live in the primary. And he was asking me questions about, are there any loopholes if I do the 1031 exchange and live in it? And I'm like, no. And it wasn't with malice, but because I'm in the business and he doesn't know, I said that probably I wouldn't advise you to do that, because that could get you in some trouble. So let me just take a look at that. I can't give you an answer right now which way is the best to go, but I am a religious user of this software that not only gives me rates and fees, but it also paints a more vivid picture for a client and does side-by-side comparisons. So what I did for him, and I'm going to share my screen with you, is I showed him. The first thing was like, all right, well, what does it look like side by side rate wise? And as you see here, obviously I took out his name for privacy reasons, but the 1031 exchange, since it's an investment property, higher interest rate, 3.25, primary had a 2.75 on the 30-year, which obviously means that his payments is going to be higher with the 1031 exchange compared to the payment of the primary. And then I obviously showed him what that looked like over a 5-year period. And you can see here, my software also allows me to do appreciation. I always use 4% because that's conservative compared to the historically factual 6% that there has been since it's been recorded. And then, as I mentioned before, he was in a 32% tax bracket. So it breaks out tax savings and things like that so that I can advise it. This is a prototype client that needs to know what the tax implications are. So over that 5-month period, a 5-year period, 60-month period, he was going to save himself almost $8,000 by doing the primary residence and taking the hit on the $14,000. But that wasn't enough because, I wanted him to see what the difference was tax wise. So what I did was a 5-year snapshot showing him how much interest he was going to pay in the 1031 exchange over 5 years and how much interest he was going to pay with the primary. Now that's a difference of about, let's call it $11,000. Not quite the 14 he was going to save for that one-time savings by doing the 1031 exchange. So then I had to take it a step further and show him a 10-year snapshot. And this 10-year snapshot shows the 1031 exchange is going to cost him $136,000 in interest, and the primary is going to be $114,000, which is a $22,000 savings. And I won't get too nerdy, although I already have been, but it was around 7 years that he was going to hit that break even between the 1031 exchange, that one-time savings versus the primary. And so I said, number one, if you're pretty sure you're going to live in this house 7 years, I think it makes sense, but don't take my word for it. Talk to your tax advisor, your CPA, let him take a look at it and let him decide what he thinks might be best, which is what he did. And I wouldn't have been able to advise him the way I advise him if Keystone Alliance Mortgage didn't promote me doing it the way I want to do it and encouraging it, and not only encouraging it, but pretty much setting it up this year for where this is a majority of what I'm going to be doing. And this is the thing that I love to do, because it's kind of transformational to be able to help a client with high net worth. They were so appreciative of what I showed him. And, I'd like to think I have a client for life. And then obviously I'll check in on him, but without Keystone's, the way they're set up as a company, I just wouldn't be able to do it, and be able to do it as much as I do it on a daily basis, and not for me to get caught up in the minutia. Hope this helps, and have a fantastic day.